We had him for so long.
Hey, what's going on, guys? We're just going to do a real quick recap video and make a couple adjustments. We were going to have done this earlier, but Matt's been in the shower crying for the last half hour because he was so upset that the Grizzlies and Blazers game got postponed due to COVID. So we're just going to do real quick adjustments and fly through this bad boy and wish you all the best of luck today.
It's, I've gotten a bunch of messages about it. It sucks. I will say this, couple things. One, I don't think I was the only one who really liked this game. So we weren't getting, you know what I mean? The other people like this game, so there's that. And then also, that's just DFS, right? I mean, it happens. You got to adjust. There's still other guys I really like on this slate. We'll break down a couple of them. And, that's just what happens sometimes.
Today's promotions are up on the other video, guys. You got to comment on the other video to be eligible for the free NBA package. Otherwise, buy the NBA package today. Let's roll. Let's make some money. Regular season playoffs, get you a $10 rebate. Day passes are up. Subscribe to the station if you're new to it. We're going to stick with the common theme of today. So we started off the day with the cash game lock being Xavier Tillman. Well, he's gone by the wayside. He's not available tonight. So I'm going to pivot over to Cameron Johnson. One, the small forward position specifically to me is a little bit weaker today. So I like to be able to pay down there so I can get the guards and centers that I like. I don't look at Johnson as like a guy that I expect to crush the way I expected Tillman to crush, but we're also not as privy to great paydown options today. He's coming in as one of the chalkier players on the slate. We'll see if that comes to fruition. It's a good spot against Houston. His price tag is down below 4K. He's got 18 plus in 8 of his past 10 games. He has a role in all game scripts. I am not nearly as chubbed up about this one as I was Xavier Tillman, but I think he's fine for cash game purposes especially.
Yeah, I think he makes a lot of sense under 4K. I mean, you brought up Xavier Tillman, and it's not just Xavier Tillman. It's that entire game. You didn't like it as much as I did, but both sides, especially the cheap pieces, were still really cheap. You had Derrick Jones around 4K, Rodney Hood still under 4K. I really liked Grayson Allen. So all of those guys are now out of play. Putting a guy like Cameron Johnson, who was already in play because he's under 4K, even more in play.
Yeah, DFS is a weird game. Like if you, again, you don't want to take for gospel like ownership percentages on websites, but watching guys you like skyrocket up by taking all those dudes out of it was majorly in play today. So we're going to move over to your GPP player for the day. It's Chris Boucher. We brought him up before. We'll bring him up again. Alex Len's cut and Aaron Baines is like the definition of an afterthought. Even though he starts a lot of games still, Baines gets like next to no run for this team anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly the Chris Boucher so inside. It's surprising. Well, I don't know if surprising is the word, but weird, I guess, that they haven't started him yet, considering the past, at least 2 or 3 games, he's started the second half. So it hasn't been like, one game thing where he started the second half. He's been starting the second half. He's been really productive when he's been out there. Anyone who watches our show knows that I'm a big Boucher fan. The one good thing about the Portland-Memphis game getting canceled from my eyes, I can really just hone in on the plays I really like. I'm not really worried about one game I love. Boucher is one of those guys. I mentioned him on our members-only video. I really like him. I'm going to have a ton of him tonight now.
Next up, Nikola Vucevic. This is all the same stuff as before. The only difference is Evan Fournier is in play. But all that does for me is make me like Gordon a little bit less. It doesn't change much for Vucevic for me because, and the only reason it knocks down Gordon just a slight little bit for me is because I think Fournier will do a little bit of the pseudo point guard position that Aaron Gordon's been doing a lot of. Not a lot. I don't think it takes Aaron Gordon out of play. I just think if it's going to affect one of these two guys, it's the subtlest of bump downs to Aaron Gordon for me.
So I definitely agree that I don't think it affects Vucevic at all. Because we talk about it. Vucevic gets his every night. It's just what it is. I thought you'd think it affects Aaron Gordon a little bit more than you're saying. I'm not sure. I am worried about Fournier coming in and playing a lot of that point guard. We've seen him do that before. Not saying that he'll do that tonight because Aaron Gordon looks good in that role, but I'm a little bit more skeptical on Gordon now for sure.
Well, I'll say this. Gordon was a guy that I was considering to be in my core today, but it was a really, really close call when he was making it. It took him just enough off of it for me. Not saying I won't use him in a GPP.
Fair.
And that he couldn't potentially make my core, but it did just give him a subtle bump down to me for a guy that I'm always a little leery on anyway.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you on that wholeheartedly.
So Vucevic is still a cash game lock for me. I still think he's a tough fade in tournaments. This guy is such a consistent DFS player, and it's Minnesota who's terrible.
Fournier does nothing to Vucevic for me, really.
Yeah, no effect right here. So next up, I'm going to stick with Derrick Rose. The only difference is, guys, on this one, he's now off of the long shot list. I didn't want to remove him because I wanted to talk about him still. He is one of the guys that if you study ownership percentages, and again, take that for a grain of salt, but his like tripled with the loss of the other game because it opens up a point guard position. We all know Atlanta's a crush spot. We've seen that before. That hasn't really changed. I'm putting enough faith in Derrick Rose that I like him tonight. So I'm going to I'm moving him off of the long shots a little bit more to a guy that I now like in all formats and is highly probable to make a couple of my lineups because I now like this game a lot more than we don't have the other one.
Me too. And he's very cheap. I mean, that's just the fact
Yes.
that, especially with those other guys now out of play. I mean, that's what it is. He's a value play at this price. So I more than understand it. All you need is this game to be semi-competitive because it's not like he's ever playing 30 plus minutes anyways.
Right. And this is something that, I take out of your repertoire a little bit, which is we got a couple of not good basketball teams. I think the Hawks have the potential to be good, but they really haven't been good. They've been dealing with injuries all year long. Now they've lost Bogdanovich and Gallo hasn't played, blah, blah, blah. This is a winnable game for both teams, and both teams aren't great. So I think you're going to see guys like Derrick Rose play their good minutes in this one.
I agree. I'm definitely more interested in him. The other guy from Detroit we like a lot. It just makes sense now.
All right. So then moving over to your long shot of the day. And again, this is another guy you're a big fan of in the marvelous Marvin Bagley. It's not a long shot that he's good. We know this guy can play. We know the Kings, when they play well, and it's tough to go up against the Clippers some days because they're really good, and when they're really good, they can exert their dominance, but they don't do that every day. I think the long shot part from Bagley comes from the fact, is the 31 and 36 minutes a trend or is it a blip?
Yeah, that's why he's a long shot here. I guess my big thing for Bagley, and yeah, you mentioned I'm a huge fan. We've seen him play big minutes, back-to-back games. The first game in that set of games was a blowout, and he had been getting blowout run, weirdly enough. That was, the only times he was really playing over 30 minutes. Well, then we saw him play 36 in that really close game against the Pelicans. I know you watched a lot of that game. He looked awesome, man, and I know Sacramento gets a lot of crap for taking him over Luka and Trae Young, and they'll never live that down. But as the last bullet point says, like his talent is never in question. This guy is really good. If this is his new role for Sacramento, he'll easily be 7K plus, in my opinion, in the next few slates. He's a big discount today. And again, with that other game not in play, Bagley is a guy I'm going to have a ton of exposure tonight.
Well, when they deserve crap for not taking him over Luka in hindsight, I am not as sold on Trae Young from an NBA perspective for winning games. He's a lot of fun to watch. He is an offensive spark plug, but he's a defensive liability. And it is difficult for very small players like that. And even if he is a lot of fun to watch, to really put their stamp on an NBA team to translate to like winning, chips. Not everybody wins chips. You can still be a very valuable member of the NBA and a lot of fun to watch. Like I think Luka will win multiple titles. Okay, I think Trae Young might end his career with none.
I don't disagree with that. I guess my question would be, though, like, do you think Bagley has the chance to pass Trae Young in the next couple of years? Because I don't disagree with what you said, but right now, just because of availability, Trae Young, anyone would take Trae Young over Bagley, and I can't blame them.
Like, if you told me in 3 years from now that Bagley and Trae Young were similar quality NBA players, that would make sense to me. I would bet you would have to give me 100-1 odds for me to place any money on Bagley surpassing Luka as the better NBA player.
Yeah, that will never happen. I mean, honestly, the only way that would it's just not going to happen. But that's a really high standard, right? Like Luka's a top 3, top 5 player in the NBA. I think Bagley has all-star game for sure.
Yes, he just needs to stay healthy, which is why the minutes have been so inconsistent and why maybe this is what he's playing now. Maybe they took the gloves off. They're letting him roll. Maybe he goes back to 23 minutes tonight, which is why he's more of a long shot than a lock. But it's never been a talent question with him. He's productive when he plays.
Yeah, and I guess the other point I just wanted to bring up here, and I mentioned it in passing on a members-only video, he's still only 5,600. So if he does go back down to like 23 minutes, like he's still putting up, 25 to 30 DK points. It's not ideal, but it's not killing you either.
And it's nice to have that in your back pocket. There's always I know you're you look at ceilings more than I do. I look at floors more than you do, more as a cash game versus GPP type of play. But it's nice that if you're playing for a ceiling to still have a floor in your background. And like Vucevic tonight is a guy that he has got, him and like Sabonis are two of the sexiest floor players in the NBA. They always give you something, right? Like the number of games those dudes drop down into the 20s, like at the end of the year, it's like 3 or 4, it seems
Yeah.
like. But they don't drop those 80 spots the way Luka and Giannis and Harden do.
For sure. Speaking of Luka, man, you mentioned it on Remember Only video. I'm looking at that game a little bit too now. A lot of stuff has opened up, man.
Luka's another one of those guys, not to give out all the information on the free videos, but he definitely got his projected ownership bumped up big time with the loss of that game.
Well, I got to imagine, man, that like, again, maybe people didn't love the game like I did, but Dame and Morant, I mean, Morant was really cheap. Damian Lillard without McCollum, like these guys were going to get love tonight.
Yeah, for sure. It's a game that had a lot of appeal to it. So that's a quick update video, guys. Since 3 of our 5 picks were no longer applicable, we just thought it makes sense to drop a little more information for you guys today. Go grab those memberships. We got Discord coming out, and it's kind of out already, but we'll be rolling it out to the public a little bit more over the next couple of days. Talk to y'all soon.
Thanks, guys.